I'd like to follow up by saying I would really like to have this office and the commission, whether it's this commission or another commission that you come up with, have some teeth to really deal with the issues at hand. And people in the community might not feel comfortable. I mean, it's very intimidating to come down to City Hall and to testify. You got the green light staring you in the face. That's intimidating. And I think that it's much more approachable to come to a commission of community people and be able to voice a concern by citizens of the community. But the question is, what can that commission do once they come and share? Because we've had, when we first started, we had calls from people telling us what their issues were, and there was no place to turn to and nothing for us to do with those concerns.
And we're going to figure that out.
So
I don't have an answer for you tonight, but our goal is to figure it out and take advantage of the talent we have sitting around the table in better ways.
And I didn't expect you to have an answer. I just wanted you to hear what my concerns were so that
Well
you
said.
can take those
Well said.
and put those into what you're doing.
So I have a comment, and then Tricia and Emily. One of the things that resonates with me, and I was thinking of it when I was listening to you, Donna, is that one of the great lessons that we've experienced over when we started this transition last January up to now is that we're a stronger commission. We've been able to work really well together, relying on each other's strengths and pulling together to forward the work. We've strengthened our relationships with City Council, established relationships where I don't think that they existed before. We have that as a tool before us now, and I think that our lesson learned is that while we have, and this is a piece that I don't see in the ordinance myself, language that really calls out that we report to City Council. We have a commissioner who is a liaison, but ultimately we have the ability and the opportunity to go to council, to ask those questions, to keep that line of communication going, to strengthen those relationships, to forge that work forward in that direction. And that's what I'm seeing is in here, but I think
We can add that. I think that's a good moment.
yeah, that's good.
Well, I'd just like to speak a little bit to what Donna was saying, and that's in terms of certainty and teeth and longevity. You know, no matter which of these options you look at, the 2 office, the 1 office, the 501(c)(3), the ONE, the RAP, council still has the budget controls. The only certainty that speaks to what you were talking about, the ongoing existence of the Human Rights Commission, funded by the city and staffed by the city, is a proposal to the Charter Commission. And I would hope that our elected officials, I know that you're kind of standing back and waiting for the Charter Review Commission to make its recommendations, but this is an attempt to speak to, can City Council vote because of budgets? It could be budgets are the reasons, it could be political maneuvering, it could be taking a position. You know, we took a position against the JTTF, although our background document was very nuanced, and I think, you know, I've talked with Mayor Adams about it. The final outcome was very close to some of the research that we've done. But you know, this is where there is an ongoing certainty for this work. And I would just urge the elected officials to consider when we get down the road and get, I think, the support of the Charter Review Commission, that you would see this as a way to say to the communities who kind of roll their eyes and say, we've been there before, we've done this before, and they've done away with us, that this is finally the solution. It's not this council. I mean, 3 of the positions for this council are up for election. You know, we can't be dependent on, you know, 5 individual personalities. We have to look for something more. That's my soapbox. Thank you.
I know you said that this was very much a draft, the Office of Equity draft work plan. And in scanning through it, I came up with a few things in my mind that I thought would be really helpful. I mean, for example, we are a commission of people whose backgrounds are working on equity issues. Number 10, I would say the office will establish an advisory system with community members. The Human Rights Commission that. I would love to have the Human Rights Commission consulted with on putting together the, I'm sorry, I'm looking through the section, goals and objectives and timelines, that's number 5. I'm not saying that we would direct them, but we should be able to advise and be part of it. And I'd like that to be included in whatever work plan is put forward. One thing I don't see, and I'm sure you aren't putting it in because you don't know about funding, but one thing that was a problem for us all along for the past 3 years was we had ideas about the things we wanted to accomplish, but we could only accomplish as much as we could as volunteers and with one staff person. And I think that's the same position that we will be in should this ordinance be adopted as it's put forward. Number one, it would be great for us to have access to other staff and to know what our relationship is to be able to have that access. I mean, I don't know if this is the place to put it clearly, but that was always a problem for us. And if we clearly knew what kind of access we had to utilize city staff, I think we could really accomplish a great deal. I mean, we accomplished a lot as it was, but man, we could really accomplish something. And then the other thing would be for the Office of Equity and Human Rights, thank you for putting that in, for them to be successful, they're gonna have enough staff to do the needed work. For example, in our original ordinance, there was a research position that was suggested, but never able to be funded. And that's just, that just has to be there in order, I mean, you want this to be a success. You don't want to create an ordinance and then not be able to fund it to a successful point. So I think I think you just have to figure out some way to include that in the ordinance.
I don't know, I'll take that under advisement.
I don't know what that means, but.
Well, it means I need to think about it.
Yeah.
The city needs a strategy. We don't have one. We need a strategy that sets actual accountable goals about what we need for equity and human rights. We don't have one. And then we have to figure out the resources that we have, and you are an important resource, and how we deploy those resources in a way that's going to achieve the goals we set out for ourselves. For me, those are a couple of just a personal opinion, soon to be just a citizen. That's what I want to see from the city, and I want to see from my Human Rights Commission, so that we're not, all of us, I say, including the mayor, so we're not just every day waking up and deciding what we're going to do, what's the best idea of the day. The problem is so great and the resources are so modest, even with all access to staff to everybody, we still have to figure out our priorities and what effort is going to yield the greatest results. We haven't figured that out yet, but I think that as we do that, and you absolutely have to be key in that, absolutely key, I think we're all going to feel more comfortable about figuring out where you're going to feel more comfortable where you can add the most value. It's a combination of teeth and inspiration and something else. It can't all be teeth. You got to have, because the private sector, you don't control the private sector. You've got to influence and inspire the private sector.
I agree.
If I may respond as well, and I don't want to be, I don't want to say just a citizen anyway, because citizens are really important, but I'm going to be an elected official for the next 5 years and 4 months. And one of the main reasons I'm running again is to see this so clearly established that no politician in their right mind would think of doing away with it, which is not the case right now. Actually, no politician in their right mind would have proposed this right now, perhaps, because it's had such a lot of flack on it, and it's the most important thing that we could possibly be doing. I was smiling when you were talking about it has to be adequately staffed. My original request was 1.5 million of new money, and I didn't get that. I didn't get anything close to that. So it's not going to be adequately staffed, at least for the first year. It's going to have 3 new staff people.
Additional to what
Yes.
are already part of the Office of Human Relations?
Right, in addition to the 4 positions we have in the Office of Human Relations, one of which will be reclassified to be the senior staff person, we have a director and 2 new positions. That's not a months, because Mayor and I are gonna be arguing the budget in March. So and that's just 2 or 3 months after the directors has come on board. But in some ways, having a smaller allocation is a good thing, in my opinion. The Office of Human Relations could never have been expected to handle all of the things that it was assigned to do. All of the immigrant refugee programs with one person. It's just not feasible. So we've got to establish policy. We've got to get every one of the 5,600 city workers thinking in terms of human rights and equity and how they do their jobs, how we can help guide them. Amalia Alejandro-Morris, the director of the Native Involvement, was involved with the previous Human Rights Commission. She told me a really helpful story to me about a person of color who was belittled in a grocery store for using food stamps and complained to their Human Rights Commission. And what they did was they got the city attorney to write on letterhead a letter to the manager of the store saying, these are the civil rights laws that you are required to abide by. We'd be happy to meet with you and talk to you about how to train your employees so that they don't, we don't get further reports of this kind of behavior to our valued citizens. And, that's not exactly teeth, it's not a hammer. It sure got their attention and it got the change in behavior. That's the kind of way that I can see this office working in partnership with you. I didn't even change the title of this. It's now Exhibit C. It'll have a new title, Office of Equity and Human Rights. I didn't change any of it because we were focusing on working with your leadership to try and get the ordinance itself done, since this is a draft. In discussions, we know that you have your strategic plan retreat coming up. I think we want to, I'd like to give you that time to figure out what is it that you would like to spend your time on the next year that we could then put into the work plan that we bring to council in 6 months, which will be the work plan rather than a draft work plan, rather than crafting something in here right now.
So,
Ellen has.
so my question is, because this has been the question in my mind, is the Human Rights Commission, this Human Rights Commission, going to be brought forward as a body, or are you going to have a commission and then elect new commissioners? And I think some of the concern that's been voiced by this commission is that uncertainty and that unclearness about what direction is going. It's not the what, it's the how things have been done. And so I think that that's a lot of the concern.
We're the first to say this has, the contemplation of change has not gone as we would have liked, and I own a piece of that responsibility. And one reason I'm not running is to make sure that I have a year and 14 months left to get certain things done, and I don't have to spend so much time running for office. So I'm committed to partner with Commissioner Fritz to give everything that I can and my team can. And so you're right, there's been a period of stress and uncertainty, and I apologize for that, and we want to make up for it by doing our best work in the next 14 months.
But to answer your
so
question
I asked
directly,
a
no,
specific
I want to
question.
answer the question.
Okay.
This commission, these people, we have no intention of disbanding you, establishing a new one. We would really appreciate those of you who are not yet finished with your terms to continue on. Does that answer your question?
You're moving forward with this.
Yes,
Yes.
that answer specifically answers my question.
And it actually is contained in here.
Oh,
It's just in
I didn't
legal,
know.
it references a number which does that. So we don't have to change anything here, it's just in the legal parlance of ordinances.
And I think on a lot of things we've talked about with the Commissioner, the Mayor, and the other commissioners. I mean, Commissioner Fritz and Mayor Adams being here tonight, but the other commissioners, Commissioner Leonard and representatives from Commissioner Salton's office have been involved in this. And so that's one of the things that's changed